She was sworn to uphold the law. He was convicted of breaking it. But behind prison walls, their secret affair burned fast, deep, and fatally out of control. In the end, love turned to leverage, and a wrench became a weapon. What happened inside that prison was not just a betrayal of duty, it was a chilling collapse of conscience. When boundaries blur and emotions override responsibility, lives are shattered. Let this story remind us, love is not love when it manipulates, controls, or kills. This is True Crimes Altar, where real sins are laid bare, justice is demanded, and every tragic choice echoes with consequence. The slate gray towers of Hollow Ridge Penitentiary loomed over Lena Darrow as she crossed the central yard toward the high-security annex. A biting February wind cut through her uniform jacket, forcing her to draw it tighter. After 5 years working the general population block, she'd been reassigned to a new unit, this one housing the most volatile offenders in the state. The metal door clanged shut behind her. Superintendent Elgin Merrick, tall and broad-shouldered with the stance of a retired colonel, led her down a dim corridor where the flickering lights barely illuminated the scuffed floors. "This block runs by its own code," he said without turning. "No sloppiness, no familiarity. Assume every one of them is a threat." His voice bounced off the cinder block walls. Lena gave a single nod, absorbing the gravity of her new post. On either side, iron bars framed narrow cells. The air was saturated with bleach and something more intangible, restriction. As they walked, inmates observed her through the slits in their cell doors. A new guard always attracted attention. "Your shift's 7 to 7. You'll be on the 3rd tier of Block Delta. Supervisor's name is Haskins. He'll get you situated," Merrick said, handing her a loop of keys and a security pass card. Block Delta's 3rd level greeted her with silence. These cells were solitary, privileges earned by inmates who'd learned to keep to themselves. Lena moved slowly down the line, familiarizing herself with the layout. From cell 308, she heard humming. It took her a moment to recognize the tune, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. She paused, glancing through the observation slot. A tall man sat on his bunk, hunched over a book. He looked up at the sound of her boots. Their eyes met. His were pale and piercing, striking in a way that caught her breath. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, voice smooth and faintly accented. "A pleasure to welcome a new presence to our humble corner of the world." She nodded, cataloging the cell's neatness, the pristine jumpsuit he wore, the carefully made bed, a tidy stack of books on the desk. Even here, he carried himself with a kind of self-respect. "Inmate number?" she asked, keeping her tone professional. 48296, Callum Varga, he said, dipping his head slightly as though they were at a cocktail party instead of a maximum security prison. Her first day crawled by. Block Delta was quieter than expected, its residents long since resigned to their fates. Haskins, her supervisor, was squat and thick-necked with a ruddy face. He explained the schedule, the surveillance systems, and routine procedures. By evening, Lena was drained, not physically, but mentally. Everything about this place demanded her constant alertness. On her way out, she passed 308 again. Varga was still by the window, reading in the last sliver of light. Later that night, lying awake in her apartment, she thought of his eyes, so calm, so unnervingly aware. Unlike the rest, there was intellect there, control. What had landed a man like that behind bars? The next morning in the staff lounge, Lena sifted through the institutional file marked 48296. The photo stapled to the top showed Callum Varga in a tailored suit pre-incarceration, judging by the confident smirk. His background read like a Wall Street resume. Dartmouth graduate. Senior analyst at a boutique investment firm. Excellent references. Then, armed robbery. One security guard shot in the chest. Killed instantly. She stared at the impassive lines in the report. "Fascinating one, isn't he?" came a voice. Judy Mallon, the facility's psychologist, appeared at her shoulder. Lena jumped. "Broke after the market collapse," Judy added. "Sank into debt with some very bad people. He was desperate. Typical Icarus story. He doesn't look like someone capable of murder." Judy gave a dry smile. "What does a murderer look like? The worst ones never fit the mold." That afternoon, back on the floor, Lena passed cell 308 again. Callum stood near the wall, where a sketch had been drawn in pencil, a delicate, detailed portrait of a young woman. "Yours?" Lena asked before she could stop herself. "Yes," he said softly. "My ex-wife. Drawing keeps her face alive for me. The details fade if you don't hold on to them." "You're talented." "Art school, once upon a time, before I shifted to finance. Ever been to the Musée d'Orsay?" he asked with a wistful smile. "Monet, Renoir, real magic." She shook her head. "Never left the country." "You'd love it," he said. Then, almost too politely, "Forgive me. I don't want to take up your time." She hesitated. She should have walked away. "What are you reading?" she asked instead. He held up a paperback. Camus. The Stranger. Strange how relevant it feels. A man kills someone and doesn't perform the right emotions, so society condemns him more for that than for the act itself. The comment gave her pause. He spoke of murder as if discussing the weather. Detached. Reflective. Not remorseful. "You enjoy Camus?" he asked. "Haven't read him. I'll lend it when I'm done. Few people here appreciate good literature." That night during final rounds, she lingered again at 308. Varga was asleep, the book still resting on his chest. His expression was peaceful. How could this be the same man who pulled the trigger and ended a life? The prison's small library was located in the basement of Delta Block. Twice a week, inmates with good behavior were allowed inside under guard supervision. Lena had offered to take the shift, better than patrolling corridors. On Thursday, only one inmate signed up. Callum. He drifted among the shells like he belonged there, fingers brushing spines with reverence. "You ever read Hemingway?" he asked, holding up a worn copy. "Met his grandson once, in a jazz bar in Montmartre. We talked for hours." "You're kidding." No. It felt surreal. Sitting across from a man who shared blood with a literary giant, drinking red wine in the City of Lights. And then he stopped, clutched the book tighter. 6 months later, I was holding a gun in a bank lobby. She tensed. They weren't supposed to talk about the crimes. "I didn't mean to shoot." I panicked. Thought I could scare them. The guard reached for his gun. I fired first. Reflex. He dropped. Just collapsed. Still see his eyes. He was shocked. "You shouldn't be talking about this," she whispered. "I know, but I had to tell someone. I can't carry it alone anymore." His voice cracked. He had kids. 2. I ruined everything. For what? Money. The rawness in his voice unsettled her. Against her better judgment, she stepped closer. "I'm sorry," he added. "I shouldn't put this on you." "It's all right." From that day, they talked about safer things. Hemingway, then Fitzgerald. The conversation flowed easily, dangerously. Lines blurred. Judy Mallon noticed first. She cornered Lena in the staff break room. "How's solitary detail treating you?" "It's quieter than I expected." "You volunteer for the library duty a lot." I like books. And some of the inmates? I don't know what you're implying. Judy leaned closer. Don't forget where the lines are drawn. Sympathy's fine. Attachment isn't. I haven't forgotten my role, Lena snapped, rising. I hope not, Judy murmured. That evening, Callum read aloud from The Old Man and the Sea. His voice softened the room, folding them into another world. She closed her eyes, drifting. Spring came. The sunlight through the barred windows felt mocking. Lena found herself in the library more often. No one minded. It was the least desirable post. They developed a rhythm. He'd read her passages. She'd bring him articles on Impressionism. Sometimes their hands touched, and those small moments sizzled. One afternoon, Callum told her about Venice. His voice dipped to a whisper. The air there, it's steeped in history, like you're breathing in centuries. You'd fall in love with it. The shift in pronouns didn't go unnoticed. She didn't correct it. I've never been, she admitted. We could go, together. His hand brushed her wrist. She should have stepped back, should have reminded them both of the rules. Instead, she froze in place. We're not supposed to. To what? He asked softly. Feel? Then he leaned in. Their first kiss unfolded between dusty shelves, the world evaporating around them. His lips, his hands, his words, they pulled her under. Later that night, she stood under the shower, the heat scalding her skin. She tried to erase the guilt, but the next morning she returned to the library, knowing he'd be there. The notes began soon after. Small scraps of paper slipped into returned books or tucked beneath magazines. Callum's handwriting was sharp and elegant. He wrote her poems, sketched little vignettes, flowers, cityscapes, once a pair of clasped hands. Lena replied at first with brief lines, then with fuller messages. Slowly, she began to forge the library log, substituting other inmates in place of his name. She overlooked it when he lingered too long, smuggled in banned novels under the pretense of literary donation. She should have known better. One afternoon, she spotted him speaking with an inmate from another unit in the corridor. Later in the library, she confronted him. What were you doing talking to Felton? That's not allowed. Callum shrugged, still smiling. Small talk. It's essential to maintain civility around here. That's not your tier, she said. You're not permitted to, and you're not supposed to let me stay past my allotted hour, or bring in off-list books, or falsify visitor logs, he said, voice hardening. Is it different when you bend the rules? She hesitated. He was right. She crossed every line, willingly. I didn't mean to upset you, he said, pulling her into an embrace. You have no idea how hard it gets in here. You're the only reason I'm still holding it together. Those words dissolved her resistance. She didn't see how slowly he was steering her. It started small, adjusting timestamps, delivering harmless messages to other inmates, leaving the staff lounge door unlocked by accident. If you love me, you'll help me, he would say. It's nothing serious, nothing that'll get you into trouble. She believed him. Judy Malin tried again. She stopped Lena outside the staff office. You've been distracted. I see you bending protocol. This isn't like you. You don't understand, Lena snapped. I understand more than you think, Judy said. He's charming. That's his weapon. He knows how to make people feel seen, understood. It's how he survives. You're wrong, Lena muttered. There's nothing going on. Then why do you look so nervous every time his name comes up? Judy asked. Why are you defending him? Lena turned and walked away. She couldn't hear this. At night, she reread his notes. My soul reaches for you like a tide to the moon, he wrote. You're the only light in this gray oblivion. She held on to those words like lifelines. During the day, she watched for him. Their eyes met through security glass. Their stolen moments in the library grew more daring. Kisses hidden behind stacks, whispered confessions. Her entire life now revolved around those meetings. She didn't see how the other staff had begun distancing themselves, didn't notice how her superiors watched her more closely. She was living in two realities, the bleak procedures of the prison and the vivid cocoon he had woven around her. "I'm losing my mind," she whispered into his shoulder one afternoon. "Then let's go mad together," he whispered back, his lips brushing her collarbone. "A beautiful madness." Callum sat before Superintendent Merrick's desk, expression unreadable, fingers twitching ever so slightly. "Your request for parole is denied," Merrick said without looking up. "The board reviewed your record. The crime's severity outweighs the behavioral merits." Callum's eyes darkened. 3 years of perfect conduct, library shifts, therapy sessions, rehabilitation classes, all wasted. Another 9 years behind bars. In the library, Lena sensed the shift immediately. "What happened?" "They said no," he snapped, slamming a book on the shelf. "I actually believe this system meant what it said. That good behavior counted for something." She reached for his arm. He pulled away. Don't pity me. I wasn't." "You know what I regret?" he asked, voice sharp. "Wasting time pretending. I could have asked you for real help." She stared at him. "What are you saying?" He pulled a folded paper from his pocket and unfolded it with care. "I have a phone. And these." He held up a small set of photos, blurry but unmistakable. Lena and Callum, faces close, arms touching, taken during one of their stolen moments in the stacks. "What do you think will happen if Merrick sees these? If he reads your notes?" Her mouth went dry. "You wouldn't." "Why not?" "I've got nothing to lose." "You do." His voice was quiet, dangerous. "How many years does a guard get for smuggling contraband? For falsifying state records? For fraternizing with an inmate? I loved you." "You were convenient," he said coldly. "You're not the first. You think you're special?" The next 3 days were a blur. Callum began laying out his escape plan. He'd already mapped out security patterns, identified who to bribe, when doors would be unmonitored. All he needed was her cooperation. Lena listened numbly. Her mind was a tangle of denial and dread. Wednesday. Laundry duty. Callum worked the shift alone. The room throbbed with the sound of washing machines. Lena walked in as he folded sheets. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll help you run." He turned toward her, that familiar smirk curling on his face. "I knew you'd come around." She noticed the wrench on the tool shelf. She saw it every day. She knew exactly where it sat. Her fingers closed around it before she could stop herself. The first blow landed above his temple. He barely registered it. The second struck harder. He collapsed onto the tile, blood rushing from his head. She hit him again and again. The rhythm of her own breathing matched the violent impact. The sound of the machines drowned everything out. When it was over, she wiped the wrench clean, replaced it, and adjusted her uniform. No cameras in the room, only in the hallway. And at this hour, they were rarely checked. She doctored the laundry log, entered another inmate's name instead, one with a history of conflict with Callum. Ray Lawrence, serving life for double homicide. They'd argued in the cafeteria 2 days earlier. Perfect. An hour later, the body was discovered. Chaos erupted. "Sirens!" Command shouted over radios. Lena stood with the other guards behind the cordon, watching paramedics zip Callum into a body bag. "How awful," she said to Judy, her voice measured. "He was such a quiet one." Judy gave her a long look, said nothing. That night, Lena burned every note he ever gave her. The words curled in the flames, delicate phrases reduced to ash. One fragment remained half intact. You're the spark in my darkness." She laughed bitterly. The next day, Detective Reuben Coyle from the Regional Crimes Unit arrived at Hollow Ridge. Lena watched him speak with Superintendent Merrick, then inspect the laundry room. He moved slowly, noting every detail. She felt the weight of his gaze, even when he wasn't looking at her. But she'd covered her tracks. There was nothing left to trace. Ray Lawrence had motive. The forged logs matched. She'd pulled off the perfect crime, or so she thought. Detective Reuben Coyle stood in the middle of the laundry room, his notepad in hand. The metallic scent of detergent clung to the air. He scanned the concrete floor, noting the reddish stain by one of the washers. Superintendent Merrick stood nearby, stiff and uneasy. "So the body was found by the guard on rotation?" Coyle asked. "Yes, Michael Thorne. He was doing his 2:30 rounds when he came in," Merrick replied. Coyle crouched beside the stain. "What about the weapon?" "A wrench, still on the tool shelf, covered in blood, but in its proper place." The detective raised an eyebrow. "That's rare. Killers don't usually take the time to clean and return the murder weapon." He moved slowly across the room, inspecting every corner, his instinct tugging at him. Something felt off. "What do we know about the man accused?" Coyle asked. "Ray Lawrence. Life sentence for a double homicide. Short temper. He and the victim had words in the cafeteria 2 days prior." "And the victim?" "Callum Varga. Quiet. Kept to himself. Worked in the library. No violations in 3 years." Coyle frowned. "Then why would a man like Varga provoke someone like Lawrence?" Merrick shifted. Tensions rise. Prison's a powder keg. Coyle spent the next 48 hours interviewing staff and inmates. No one had seen or heard anything. The guards were tight-lipped. The inmates said nothing at all. Standard procedure in a place like Hollow Ridge. He sat across from Lena Darrow in the observation room. "How long did you work with Varga in the library?" 6 months. I was usually assigned Tuesday and Thursday shifts." "What was your impression of him?" "Calm, polite, intelligent, kept to himself." She was composed, but her fingers wouldn't stop rubbing the sleeve of her shirt. Nervousness or grief? That evening, Judy Malin knocked on Coyle's temporary office door. "You wanted to talk?" she asked. "Come in." She sat and crossed her legs, glancing at the folder on his desk. "You evaluated Varga?" "Often, especially the last few months. I noticed changes." "Like what?" "Irritability. He was angrier. Mood swings. He got denied parole, and that hit him hard. But what?" "It was more than that. Like he was preparing for something. I couldn't put my finger on it." Coyle jotted down a few words. "This doesn't add up," he muttered. "A model inmate suddenly turns reckless. The killer wipes and returns the weapon. Then we have your notes about behavior changes." He pulled the laundry log from the file. Ray Lawrence's name was there, but the entry looked too neat, too calculated. Prison always smelled the same, disinfectant and despair. Coyle knew that scent well. He'd worked corrections cases long enough to know when something wasn't right. "I want the security footage," he told Merrick the next morning. The warden's face tightened. "We've had technical issues. The recording system crashed 2 days ago. Everything's operating live feed only." "When's it expected to be fixed?" "End of next week. Technicians scheduled." Coyle made another note. Convenient timing. In the interrogation room, Ray Lawrence towered over the table like a granite statue. Tattoos laced his arms and neck. "Where were you between 2 and 2:30 on the day of the murder?" Coyle asked. In my cell. The laundry log says you were here. I don't give a damn what the log says. I was in my cell. Ask the others. Coyle leaned in. You had a fight with Varga in the cafeteria. He cut the line. I told him off. That's all. I don't kill people over that. There was no fear in his eyes. No guilt. Just certainty. Coyle continued questioning others. Most of the guards offered little. The inmates even less. But patterns emerged. A subtle distance between Lena Darrow and the rest of the team. And Varga, always alone, except when in the library. Any recent changes in his behavior? He asked Judy again. She nodded. He was more tense. More intense. Like he was running out of time. Coyle pored over the visitation logs. Lawrence's name stood out. It was in the right place, but it was too perfect, too precise, like it had been crafted instead of recorded. Who maintains these logs? He asked Merrick. Guards on shift. Thorne and Darrow were both assigned that day. Coyle tapped the log with his pen, thinking. The cameras failed. The suspect denies being there. The log lines up too neatly. Someone went to considerable effort to frame this. He needed more. The rain was a fine mist as Coyle parked outside the regional records office. The prison investigation had stalled. Time to go backward. He pulled the old case file on Callum Varga, photos from the scene, witness statements, financial reports. Varga had once been a star in investment circles. After the market collapse, he spiraled. Debt, pressure, threats. Then a botched robbery. One guard shot. Dead in seconds. The trial wasn't dramatic. Varga confessed. Expressed regret. Admitted to the shooting, said he never meant to pull the trigger. The judge handed down 12 years. Coyle flipped through court transcripts until a knock came at the door. Guard Michael Thorne stood in the doorway. Detective, we found something during the sweep of Varga's cell. Superintendent asked me to give it to you. It was a plain envelope. Inside, letters, dozens of them, neatly folded, written on torn notebook paper. Poems, drawings, confessions of love. Coyle spread them on the desk. No names, no addresses, but unmistakably written by a woman. That evening, Judy returned. I've seen these, she said quietly. Well, the effects of them. Varga changed after he started getting them. Became more confident. It was like he thought he had leverage. Why wasn't it reported? No proof. Just a feeling. But a week before he died, he came to me. Requested a transfer. Said he didn't feel comfortable working with Darrow anymore. Coyle sat with that a moment. The timing was crucial. He reopened the files. The letters mentioned Venice, St. Mark's Square, cafes and pigeons. One passage described them walking hand in hand along the canals. Coyle checked Lena Darrow's file. Her passport had never been issued. She'd never been to Venice. She'd only ever heard about it from Callum. The letters read like dreams, promises, plans for a life beyond prison walls. But now, those dreams were ashes. Something had broken. He met again with Judy in her office. The soft lighting and potted plants made it feel out of place in the prison's hard interior. She read over the letters. She was obsessed, Judy said finally. Look at the language, the repetition. These weren't just fantasies. She believed them. Believed he loved her back, that they had a future. Coyle laid out old security stills from before the system failure. This is where it starts, he said. Library, after shift. Talking quietly. Nothing explicit, but enough. He chose her, Judy said. That's how these dynamics work. She feels seen, understood. Suddenly, she's the one who matters. And once she believes that, she'll do anything to protect it. Even kill for it. Judy nodded. You can trace the arc in the letters. First, the flirty exchanges. Then the declarations, the plans. And then fear, anxiety, desperation. She knew she was being used, but she couldn't walk away. I saw them arguing, Judy added. Day before his death, outside the library. She looked cornered, like he had something on her. I didn't hear what they said. Why didn't you report it? Arguments between guards and inmates aren't rare, and I didn't have proof. They traced Lena's movements on the day of the murder. Morning rounds, library duty, brief conversation with Varga, then the camera feed cut. The plan had already begun. She started altering logs a week before, Judy noted, covering her tracks. He must have realized and tried to leverage it. Then why keep the letters? Maybe he thought they were insurance, Judy said. Or maybe it was revenge, a final way to drag her down if he couldn't get out. Outside the window, the yard lights switched on, carving sharp lines across the compound. Somewhere beneath them, Lena Darrow was still moving through her shift, pretending none of it had happened. The interrogation room felt small, claustrophobic. Lena Darrow sat across from Detective Reuben Coyle, arms folded tightly, uniform crisp, but her face pale. She kept her composure, but her fingers fidgeted under the table. We found the letters, Coyle said, placing the worn pages in front of her. Hidden under the mattress in Varga's cell. He kept all of them. Lena didn't look. Her expression didn't change, but something in her chest stilled. They're full of promises, Coyle continued. A future in Venice. Gondolas. St. Mark's Square. You never left the country, Lena, but you wrote like you'd been there. I imagine it was his description that shaped those dreams. Still, she said nothing. He laid another sheet on the table. 2 days before his death, surveillance caught your final conversation with Varga, the last before the system mysteriously stopped recording. He was angry. You looked afraid. I like to read, she finally said, voice dry. Coyle nodded. That much is clear. But you were also altering the library logs, and more notably, the laundry schedule. You placed Ray Lawrence there during the time of the murder, but we've interviewed 3 witnesses who confirmed he never left his cell. Lena stiffened. We've had your handwriting analyzed. The laundry log entry is yours. Same as the letters, same slant, same pressure. The door opened, and Judy Malin stepped in. Lena's shoulders fell ever so slightly. Lena, Judy said gently, tell us what happened after the parole board denied his release. Something shifted. Lena stared down at her hands. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. He threatened me, said he had photos, said he'd show them to Merrick, told me I'd lose everything. My job, my freedom, that I was nothing to him, just one more name on a long list of weak hearts. Is that why you killed him? Kyle asked. I didn't go there to kill him, Lena said. I just wanted to make him stop, make him understand what he was doing. But he laughed, said I was predictable, said there were women like me in every prison, lonely, desperate, easy. Her voice cracked. There was a wrench on the shelf, she continued. I don't even remember grabbing it. All I remember is his laughter. And then she swallowed hard. The blood. You hit him 5 times, Coyle said quietly. I didn't count, she said. After the first, I couldn't stop. Then you falsified the log, Coyle pressed. I had to protect myself, she said, from losing my life, from admitting I was just a pawn. She paused, then looked up, eyes brimming. I loved him. Even in that moment, I still did. Coyle reached into his jacket, pulled out the cuffs, and placed them gently on the table. She didn't resist. The cold metal clicked around her wrists. Outside, the drizzle continued, painting streaks down the glass, blurring the line between those who guard and those who are guarded. The courtroom was packed. Lena sat straight-backed in a gray prison-issued dress, hands folded on her lap. Her face was blank, but her eyes never wavered. The prosecutor recited the charges with clinical precision: unauthorized relationship with an inmate, breach of correctional protocol, premeditated murder to cover up misconduct. One by one, her former colleagues took the stand. Michael Thorne spoke about her sudden changes in routine. Thomas Avery described the irregularities in visitation logs. Judy Mallon detailed the emotional unraveling, the signs of obsession, the warnings Lena refused to hear. In the hallway between sessions, staff whispered, "Hard to believe. She was always so sharp. Varga could charm the skin off a snake. Remember how Miller from B Unit used to stare at him too? But she didn't kill anyone." Superintendent Merrick's testimony was restrained. He spoke of Lena's formerly impeccable service, her quiet professionalism, how none of them saw it coming. Detective Coyle summarized the investigation clearly: the letters, the forged logs, the last conversation, the confession. Lena's attorney focused on emotional manipulation, pointed to cases where inmates preyed on vulnerable staff. He cited remorse, cooperation, and a clean prior record, but the jury didn't need long. Guilty on all counts. 15 years. Lena didn't flinch as the sentence was read. She was transferred out of state to a facility where no one knew her face, but they knew her story. Her posture gave her away. Too straight, too practiced. The other inmates guessed the truth quickly. She was one of them, once. Back at Hollow Ridge, her case became a whispered warning. A quiet parable. One that said, even the steadiest hands can falter when emotions go unchecked. Detective Coyle sometimes found himself revisiting the files, rereading statements, staring at the photo of Callum Varga's cell, wondering what, if anything, could have changed the ending. Months later, a new inmate found a hidden compartment behind a wall panel in cell 308. Inside, one last letter, unsent, folded carefully. It was never read. In Judy Mallon's office, the work continued. She met with guards more frequently now, talked to them, listened, watched, looking for signs. Because tragedy doesn't shout, it whispers. And in the cold corners of Hollow Ridge, the whispers still echoed. No matter how powerful an emotion feels, love, desire, longing, our actions must always be measured by conscience and boundaries. What happened in this case was not love, but manipulation disguised as intimacy. When you find yourself in a difficult or compromising situation, do not keep it to yourself. Seek help. Talk to someone. Go to the right authorities. Let no one ever make you feel like you must carry the weight alone, because secrecy breeds desperation, and desperation breeds destruction. This is True Crimes Alter, where we explore the darkest choices hidden behind familiar faces. What do you think about Lena's story? Could this tragedy have been avoided? Comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life crime stories told with truth and heart. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We love hearing from every corner of the world. Until next time, stay safe and never let love blind you to danger.